All right, let's see. First thing for today, PSA. If you have some wrist/hand/elbow pain, do not ignore it. Mega thread. Hey all, I'm sure many in this subreddit have seen the YouTube video about BTMC who mentioned he was diagnosed with hand tendinopathy and was recommended to avoid activity for 2 weeks. Osu, given a brace, and also has some beliefs about X-ray being potentially needed. This is a screenshot of the papers that the urgent care gave me. That is true. All right. That's this thing. That's cool. That's true. All right. Most of these interventions target the source of the pain rather than the underlying cause. Strengthening and load management is the key to returning to play. Many of the recommendations are a bit outdated and general, which may provide initial reduction in pain, but does nothing to address underlying causes of pain, poor endurance, and load management. This can even be a reason for the timeline of recovery being lengthened. I'll explain why a lot more depth below. But first, I'm Matt, and I'm a physical therapist who has spent the last decade focused on helping gamers, quite a few Osu players, esports pros in every major esports title, League, Val, CS, Fortnite, aim trainers, MADOW, Dota, Rocket League, Overwatch, etc., and desk workers not only resolve, but find better ways to resolve their wrist pain. Always without excessive rest, bracing, medication, injuries, or surgery. My team and I have published a few studies, textbooks, and editorials to raise more awareness about gaming injuries. The Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy, they published this article. More than a game, musculoskeletal injuries and a key role for the physical therapist in esports. Interesting. Tendinopathies in gaming. Tendinopathies in video gaming and esports. I'd like to go into these articles later, but I do want to get to the thread first. And then finally, conditioning for esports, chapter 8, 9, and 10. They wrote a book! They wrote a book! No way! Osu is a mechanically demanding game due to the high overall APMs, actions per minute. And while I'm not super well versed in the understanding of all physical demands, since I'm only had exposure through a few gamers I worked with who played Osu, my work with other games of high actions per minute, especially aim trainers, have given me a good understanding of the high stress that's placed on the hand. Honestly, the varied input devices, different game modes, and unique ways individuals are actually control inputs is fascinating. Anyway, because of all the potential topics that can be covered with wrist and hand health in this game, I wanted to create this mega thread to hopefully provide some more guidance to anyone dealing with wrist pain and confused about what to do. Many times, a Google research and now ChatGPT provides outdated information about treatment. To start, I wanted to provide a list of topics and questions that may have asked or may be curious about. I've written lengthy Reddit posts about each of these topics where I reference current research. Check them out here. Why rest, medication, and injections aren't the solution. To start, I want to provide a list of topics and questions that may have asked or may be curious about. I've written lengthy Reddit posts about each of these topics where I reference current research. Check them out here. Why rest, medications, and injections aren't the solution. By 1HP Matt. Same person. Do MRI, ultrasound, and other imaging results matter? Another, damn, chronic Redditor, all right? Respect. How do posture and ergonomics contribute to hand issues? Will a vertical mouse help? On r/mouse review. Yo, this guy is super active. Tingling and pain in your hands can come from the shoulder. This is on r/repetitive strain. Why understanding more about pain can help you recover. On r/RSI. What's the role of bracing with wrist pain? It doesn't really help. On r/repetitive strain. It's normal to feel more pain initially with exercises. r/repetitive strain. And how sitting and inactivity can be a silent cause of your issues. r/RSI. Before you dive into some of these posts, which also highlight a lot of the key underlying physiology and pain science, this is the one thing we always help gamers understand about gaming industries. The health bar framework. Think of your muscles and tendons as having a health bar. Whenever you tap your keys, grip, and move your stylus, you are gradually losing HP. There are things you can do to modify how quickly you are losing HP, like better ergonomics, triple and double versus single tap, stylus versus mouse, posture, better general wrist health, sleep, etc. Poor overall grip and higher actions per minute can mean more HP lost per unit time of playing. When you get to 0, the muscles and tendons, most often tendons, get irritated. On the flip side, you can do things to restore your HP, like rest, ice, massage, It
is kinesio tape.
Kinesio tape. I watched 20 seconds of that video just to figure that out. Ice massage, kinesio tape, etc. This is what BTMC was recommended for the initial course of his recovery, which can be helpful to reduce pain, but should not be the main focus of recovery. But the most important of all is the size of our health bar. This is our muscular endurance, or how much our tissues can handle of repeated stresses over sessions. So the main focus of our prevention and management should be to address this underlying problem of tissue capacity, or endurance. Exercises help us target certain tissues, but how you perform them with higher repetitions allows us to achieve the adaptations that will help you play for longer with less pain. This is what the doctor should have helped BTMC focus on. Looks like I need a new doctor. The exercises will help him return to play, especially if he can manage his play schedule well when starting back up again. It can be as quick as 1 week, but maybe only 1 to 2 hours distributed throughout the day with lower APM songs. The two main things we can modify with our HP are: 1, how much our tissues can handle through specific exercises targeting the muscles we use, which is the capacity. And 2, how much stress we apply onto our tissues, playing games at different intensities and without breaks. High BPM maps are very different than more chill maps / songs, just like aim training is different than an auto chess game. When we don't take breaks, that means our overall demand our tissues need to have the capacity for. When we don't take breaks, that means more overall demand for our tissues need to have the capacity for. This is always the first thing we recommend because it's directly contrary to what many physicians recommend. What is important to note is that many recommendations you find online or even with your primary care physician is outdated. Most of the time, they recommend resting, bracing, etc., which is counterproductive to what needs to be done. When we rest, tendons actually get weaker. The signaling to the muscles weakens. Kinetic chain is negatively affected, and a few other harmful physiologic changes. Cook et al. 2009. This must be a footnote / reference / citation. With this being said, let's explore why recommendations are outdated and why it is likely not carpal tunnel syndrome. Most of the time, it isn't carpal tunnel syndrome. In the past 8 years, we have treated over 2,500 cases of wrist pain, and actual carpal tunnel syndrome has accounted for less than 1% of the cases. One case, mild carpal tunnel, tendinopathy, was the main issue. Carpal tunnel syndrome is a thickening of the carpal tunnel ligament, and that causes compression of the nerves that travel through the carpal tunnel space. This causes numbness, tingling, and pain through the median nerve distribution of the hand, which includes the middle index and thumb fingers. Actual cases of carpal tunnel occur usually after years of repetitive stress that causes the ligament to thicken. Tendinopathy, on the other hand, is inflammation of the tendons that pass through the carpal tunnel, and the swelling can mimic the thickening of the carpal tunnel ligament, but getting surgery on the ligament will do very little to actually reduce the swelling of those tendons. Many doctors do not take enough time to thoroughly screen out tendinitis versus carpal tunnel syndrome and set people up on a path that leads to injections, surgery, and failed healing. There are a lot of reasons for this we'll go over now. There is a reason why carpal tunnel syndrome continues to be the primary diagnosis provided when many leave their doctor's office, typically after 5 to 10 minutes of an evaluation. This is not enough time. I was only in the urgent care for 5 to 10 minutes. This is one of the biggest misconceptions around wrist pain in traditional medicine, and it can be traced back to flaws in our medical education curriculum, our broken healthcare system, and the internet itself. Let's start with the medical education. Right now, education about the musculoskeletal system of our bodies, which involves muscles, bones, and nerves, often represent less than 5% of medical education, with some studies that show only 2% of U.S. medical school curriculum is devoted to MSD, which is musculoskeletal system, I think. On top of that, only around 15% of medical schools require a rotation or practical experience in the MSK field, and some of them only lasting 1 to 2 weeks long. That must be their source. Musculoskeletal Education in Medical Schools, a survey in California and review of literature. This leads to many graduating medical students demonstrating poor knowledge and low confidence in treating musculoskeletal disorders. And these are the doctors you likely seen at primary care clinics, urgent care centers, etc. Holy shit. I did go to see an urgent care center. It did only take 5 to 10 minutes. They sent me home with this paperwork, but to clear up, I just want to reiterate, okay? My diagnosis wasn't actually wrist tendinopathy. It was like a mild wrist, like overuse strain thing or something like that. But they recommended for me to do these exercises anyway. So, something to clarify. But anyways, interesting thread so far. They are the first healthcare provider typically seen, which has been one of the reasons why carpal tunnel syndrome is so commonly diagnosed when there often isn't any report of numbness or symptoms don't behave at all like carpal tunnel in the first place. These physicians are far behind in their understanding of upper extremity repetitive strain injuries. Add this on top of physicians only having about 5 to 10 minutes to try to understand your lifestyle, perform a full examination to determine contributing factors, psychosocial lifestyle factors, and other variables that lead to wrist injuries. And we can compare this to a physical therapy evaluation, which will often take 45 to 60 minutes. This just is not enough time to accurately assess the tissue source and contributing factors leading to your wrist pain. Most often, the physicians will perform a cursory exam, provide the diagnosis, and, if you're lucky, refer you to a physical therapist. Even more of a problem was the boom of Google and search engines, which led to people coming home from these doctor's visits just remembering they have carpal tunnel syndrome. With more searches of the term and wrist pain symptoms, search engine optimizers and healthcare systems began to put out content that further reinforced this misconception. The goal with the articles was to get people to be seen by their doctors without realizing they were contributing more to the problem by associating all wrist pain symptoms with carpal tunnel syndrome. So, more articles came out and the overall general association of wrist pain and carpal tunnel became more and more solidified. So, this systemic failure led to the passive approach of rest being the dominant way to fix wrist pain. And when it didn't work, they thought that surgery or more aggressive procedures were necessary. And unfortunately, once patients buy into this idea, largely out of their control, it can create beliefs that you can't do anything about it because you are told that they have to take this passive approach and have no control over what they can to recover. This has real consequences, especially as we have improved our understanding of pain science over the years. It creates fear of movement, fear of long-term damage for your tissues. You won't, especially from small repetitive activities. We've seen this belief of having carpal tunnel syndrome delay recovery from as short as 2 to 3 weeks to 8 months to a year. This leads them to what we call referral hell. Specialists who also are unaware of the current evidence around upper extremity RSI. Surgeons who only provide injections and surgery, all creating frustration and confusion that no one can seem to figure out what is going on. This is interesting. Chat, for the past 2 weeks, I've been intentionally not talking about my recovery and not talking about my hand injury because this is exactly what I'm going through. I've realized, and I learned the hard way, that when I talk about my health, it all of a sudden summons a bunch of doctors in my chat that don't understand my circumstance, that tell me what to do, that are not experts, people that I do not want to listen to. I listen to my doctor, and that's it. Correction. I listen to qualified specialists. And my doctor is the closest person that I have access to that specialist. Okay? So I listen to them and not my chat. So when my chat started trying to be that doctor, I got rid of the conversation. I stopped talking about my hand injury. I stopped talking about my diagnosis. I stopped talking about all of that because I don't want to listen to you. I will listen to my doctor. I will listen to this person after I vet their qualifications. At the moment, I'm taking this thread as like, it seems legit. I'll take their word for it. in my own time, I'll do my due diligence and vet this person to make sure that they have the qualifications and they know what they're talking about. That's for me personally. But I will give an update because this is relevant to this. I'm currently in referral hell because when I got my diagnosis, these pieces of paper, I went to an urgent care. I haven't actually seen the doctor in like 4 years. It's pretty bad. That's because every time I tried to go see a doctor, the closest appointment is like 2 months out. And then when the day comes, I am busy, something happens, I need to reschedule, it gets delayed another 2 months out. More recently, my primary care doctor is on maternity leave. So ever since I've been in LA, I haven't seen a fucking doctor. That's a problem. So I've been bouncing around urgent cares every time I have issues, right? And although an urgent care is like, you know, it's better than nothing, they won't have the same scope of understanding as a primary care physician. Because you're a primary care physician, ideally you build a long-lasting relationship with them. They understand what your work is like. They understand what your family life is like. They understand your everything about you, so they can give you your best recommendation to help you find the right people, right? The problem that I'm in right now is that I'm currently going through referral hell because the urgent care recommends that I see a specialist, what's called? They literally said it here. Orthopedic doctor. I need to find an orthopedic specialist, all right? The urgent care, when I first went to them, they told me, here's a wrist brace. Here's a steroidal injection in your arm. Here's some, what's called, rest for 1 week, 1 to 2 weeks. If symptoms continue, follow up either at this urgent care clinic or your primary care physician. 1 to 2 weeks passed, still experiencing symptoms. They got better, but they returned. Went back to the urgent care clinic that I went to. They told me they can't help me with anything. So I went to my primary care physician. I called them. They're gone on maternity leave. I went to a specialist. I just Googled a specialist and went to them. They only service patients by referral only. So I called an online doctor, like a what's it called, through my health insurance. They have this like teledoc service. I called my teledoc service, explained the symptoms to them, and asked if they can give me a referral to an orthopedic specialist. They gave me that referral. I went back to an orthopedic specialist. They told me the referral needs to come from my primary care physician. Fuck me. They're gone on maternity leave. I call my primary care physician anyway. Get sent to the thing. I explain the situation. I'm like, I've been to all these urgent cares, these teledocs. I talked with an orthopedic specialist already. I know the doctor is gone, but can you, as the office, give me a referral so I can continue progressing? They said, the doctor, if you email these documents to them, the doctor should be able to look at it and then give you the referral you need. That will take another week or so. So I sent them the documents. And then I finally heard back from them like a couple days ago. They finally were like, okay, the insurance has approved the request. Call this number. You have to call this orthopedic doctor. You can't go to any other one. You have to go to this specific specialist. And as of this morning, it is my third attempt calling this specialist that I got approved by my insurance to see, trying to schedule an appointment, and they're not available. The reason why I do not talk about my health anymore is because no one in my chat understands this entire story. Only I do. Okay? However, I'm not a fucking idiot. And as a result, I'm laying low off of Osu. The only recommendations I have so far are this from an urgent care. So I'm going to continue doing these recommendations until I can see that specialist. However, I would love to reach out to this person, assuming that they have the qualifications. I'm not sure how the insurance system is going to work, or maybe this can be like some sort of like, you know, other organized event, or maybe I just pay the dude direct or whatever. But I'm interested. Frumpy, so here's the thing. You may understand it, but I guarantee that all 10,000 people who watch this clip right now, 60% of them have already left. Only like 20 to 30% actually watch the video all the way through and will understand all the context. All the people who are sounding alarm on Twitter of BTMC is a fucking idiot. He's making fun of people who have hand injuries. He's an idiot himself because he got a hand injury. He's coped, blah, 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 blah. They don't understand the whole context. What is the point of me clapping back at them when I have the information out there, but they choose not to understand it? So my decision has been just stop the flow of information. I get annoyed by people coming to me misinformed about my own takes. I'll just stop giving my takes. Specifically about health, because this is something that directly affects me. Doesn't affect anyone else. All right. Let's continue. Referral hell. Specialists who are unaware of the current evidence around upper extremity RSI, surgeons who only provide injections in surgery, all creating frustration and confusion that no one can seem to figure out what's going on. And with this cycle of more passive approaches, you develop more weakness and your overall capacity for gaming will reduce. This can create more opportunities for frustration and confusion that can increase your overall sensitivity to pain. Small activities that are not doing any damage to your wrist and hand in any way might feel painful. This is called central sensitization or neuroplastic pain. The healthcare system is not set up appropriately to get us to the right individuals that can help us and focus on treating the source of the pain instead of the cause. Again, the cause being the tendons. This is the case distribution of what we've seen in the past 5 years, where the number of cases is 1,441. Of them, tendons made up 1,232 cases, and nerve issues were 144. 0 of them were carpal tunnel. The majority of the injuries that we have seen resulting from repetitive strain are associated with the tendon. Nerves are involved in 7.92% of the cases, followed by the muscle with 3.17% of the cases. This is because tendons are often the tissue that gets irritated first after repeated use over extended periods of time. Often, the wrist pain comes after multiple days of high-volume desk work, drawing, programming, gaming, 10 to 12-hour days with poor rest. This was day 1, 2, and 3 of the Farmathon. Because our tendons are unable to handle the repeated stress, they get irritated. Only after the tendons are not appropriately treated for many years, 5+ years, can it progress to eventually irritate the median nerve. And in these situations, doctors advise that we rest, wear a brace, or take a break from our activity. As a reminder, when we completely rest, that has actually been shown to be worse for tendons, 3 to 5. What do you mean 3 to 5? Making them more weak. They need stress or load to maintain their structure. And so, what the traditional approach is recommending is actually hurting you more and leading you to worse wrist and hand function because you're treating the wrong tissue. So, how can you actually build up your tissue capacity and be more mindful about the physical stress you're applying to your wrist and hand? Overcoming the broken system. 3 tips to actually manage your wrist pain. One of the most important things I can help you understand is that your muscles and tendons need to be strong enough to handle the repeated stresses of your desk work, typing, clicking, and gaming for long periods of time. Which is why I keep repeating this concept and idea. Many desk workers and gamers who spend a lot of time in front of a PC do not have the endurance at the muscles of the forearm, wrist, and hand to handle the repeated clicking, typing, and gaming. While it may not seem like a lot, after many years of lower levels of activity, more of a sedentary lifestyle, the endurance and our capacity will gradually lower to the point where our tissues can get irritated from 6 to 8 hours of consistent desk work. What the fuck is this? When we rest too much, our tissues can handle less, and so it is normal and expected for pain to return after extended periods of rest advised by doctors. That's interesting. That's exactly what happened to me. I didn't play Osu. After I started experiencing symptoms, I stopped, went to see the doctor, completely stopped Osu, cut out Osu entirely, came back in 1 to 2 weeks, and it came back, and so did the symptoms. This is also why medication, bracing, injections, ice alone do not provide long-term relief for wrist pain, because they only address the source of the pain, nerves, rather than the underlying cause. The underlying cause being your capacity. Again, your ability to handle repeated stresses over long periods of time. Surgery can remove the tissues, putting added pressure on nerves, but it doesn't fix the problem that made your tissues hurt in the first place. Specific exercises can be performed based on where you are feeling the discomfort.
Wrist pain is
Oh, this is their channel. 1 HP mat. Feel it on the palm side of your hand, performing wrister flexor based exercises. Extensors based pain, target the wrist and finger extensors. Pinky sided pain, exercises targeting the ulnar deviators. Hopefully you can see the pattern. I go over some of the muscle groups and exercises you can do in the video above. We also have free guides for those who are interested. Even when we build our endurance to handle a lot of potential stress, we can still be at risk of pain. 12 hours straight of work for multiple days in a row, limited rest and breaks can still stress our tissues, which is why we have to, number 2, be mindful of our schedule. Too much, too quick, too soon. This is the story we hear about the patients we have treated that led to the pain in the first place. I was grinding a new season and played 8 hours over the past week. I played for 10 to 12 hours for 3 days straight for an esports tournament. I played cash cups in every region and started to feel pain in the end. I started an Osu Farmathon where I was playing 12 hours a day on the hardest beat maps of all time, pushing my limits every single day for 30 days straight. The second tip is that we have to pay attention to our schedule and recognize how much stress we are placing onto our tissues. This is called load management and means to be proactive in managing our schedule. The 2 largest variables that affect our load are 1, how long we are performing our activity. 2, what are we doing? Drawing versus simple admin work versus programming sprint have very different intensities. High intensity plus long duration without a break are what lead to injury. This happens most commonly when there are project deadlines or for gaming. New patches get released near the end of a ranked season, just before an actual competitive season, starting an AIM training program, etc. Times in which there's a lot of activity required, meaning a lot of stress on the wrist and hand. So, the general recommendation is every 50 minutes you work or play, you should try to take a 5-minute break. If you don't take a break, those 5 minutes carry over into the next hour. 2 hours, 10 minutes. 3 hours, 15 minutes, etc. Try and go stretch or walking during this time. Walking, even for 6 minutes, has been shown to lead to an increase in overall mood and performance specifically. So you not only get to ensure your session after the break is more productive, but you'll help better manage your tissue health. This leads to the third and most important tip. Number 3, be patient. It takes time for your tissues to adapt. And the reality is that many of the individuals we work with seek out care from traditional healthcare first, which leads to the situations I described above. With care centered around only reducing pain, it can lead you to becoming more weak. So you'll have to be more cognizant of how much you begin using your hands in the beginning, especially if you feel pain very early on into holding the mouse. The goal is to gradually increase how much time you can handle gaming while you're building up your tissue capacity or your endurance. It takes roughly 4 to 6 weeks to the tissues to actually adapt, so you have to exercise daily during that period in order to see the benefit. I know that can seem like a lot to ask for, but it can start as little as 5 to 10 minutes a day. The other thing to consider is trying to actually find a healthcare provider that takes the time to actually understand your situation and work with you to address the underlying cause. This might mean getting a second, third, fourth opinions until you find someone who actually understands the current evidence around upper extremity repetitive strain injuries. Unfortunately, this is on the rare side, but not impossible. We are hoping to change this, and specifically in gaming, we have even started our own continuing education course to help future providers learn how they can work with gamers. Try to find someone who will be patient and understanding that it takes time to address the underlying weakness and works with you to establish a clear plan going forward. Hopefully this mega thread helped, and there are a lot of references in some of the sub-articles listed. Too long, didn't read. This is a mega thread on how you can both manage and prevent wrist and hand pain as an OSU player. It will teach you the underlying physiology and has all of the updated evidence on the common questions we've received about medications, bracing, surgery, neuroplastic pain, etc. in the past 8 years. If you have some issues that you're dealing with right now, we have some free guides here. Oh shit. And these are their citations. Chat, before I give my response, I do want to make this comment. This thread is incredible. I sent you a DM here on Reddit, but I would love to work with you to spread this message or spread this information even further. Let me send that DM first. I just realized that this dude 1 HP Matt, I know this guy. This guy was the physical therapist, or still is, I'm not entirely sure, at CLG in FaZe. Chat, after going through this entire thread, and this was a long ass thread, bro was not joking when he said that this is a mega thread. Everything that this person has said has lined up with my experiences up until now. Okay? With that being said, I also did my own digging, and I realized that dude has the qualification. I am aware of 1 HP, all right? Of 1 HP Matt. Like, dude is a physical therapist who works with other esports agencies that I'm, you know, not exactly close to, but like I know a lot of people at those agencies. So like CLG, FaZe, etc., right? In fact, I know a couple physical therapists around LA. There's like Dr. Respawn, there's Dr. Levi Harrison, like there's a couple of them. Like it's not actually that uncommon to see esports organizations hire a physical therapist on site to make sure that their team, their gamers, these gamers who are on these teams don't have any injuries and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty dope. So I reached out to Mr. 1HP Matt. I think there's some really cool shit that we can do together. All right. And if they're in LA, I feel like we could do some even cooler shit. But yeah, I hope to hear back from them. But outside of this, like, that's fucking dope, dude. That's fucking dope. A lot of this is really interesting information. I'd like to confirm a couple things with them directly if possible. Otherwise, my current idea at the moment is to slowly, over time, ease back into OSU, with like smaller play sessions, frequent rest, but also still conducting the same stretches and exercises that my doctor recommends. I think that would be the most intelligent decision, or most informed decision to do. However, I do want to confirm a couple details with them first. All right, because obviously, all right, doctor or Mr. 1 HP Matt is not my doctor. All right. If I'm doing this, if I'm using the information here and, you know, taking my health into my own hands and doing my own stuff, like, I'm assuming certain risks, right? And so because of that, I want to clarify a couple of things before we do that. So today is still going to be an RSG day. All right, today is still going to be a short stream, but I would love to hear back from him, and hopefully we can get some stuff squashed out, and yeah, that'd be dope. Yeah, overall, this thread is incredible, dude. I think every single OSU player who has any fear about should read this through. I think you should actually make a video about this. Hey, Shadow, shh, I reached out. I won't say anything else. Shh, shh, shh. At the very least, there will be this Clips channel video, but I have ideas.